session. So we have a meeting. I know it's been a lot for a lot of people, so the recording should allow you to go back and view it at your own pace. I'm going to actually mention that I have the presentation right now just in edit mode or view mode. I wanted to show this tip. Ashley's shown it in another one, but if you delete everything after the edit on a Google slide and just delete that and replace it with preview, it's going to open up my presentation within just like my regular Chrome window. So it didn't go like full window or anything. So I'm going to be able to bounce back from my presentation and the site, which will be a really good thing. So the bit.ly is right here as well. We'll share it in the chat again, I'm sure a number of times, but if you wanted to go to bit.ly/Dynamite sites, all in one word. And without further ado, by means of introduction, my name is Rouch. I'm the Educational Technology Administrator from Hemet Unified School District. And with me as the co-pilot is Ashley Yazarlou. If you don't mind saying a couple words to the crowd, Ashley.
Hi, everybody. I'm here answering your questions in the chat if you need anything.
So if you've attended one of her Google Meet sessions, I'm surprised she still has a voice. She's been killing it to crowds of like 250 people online. So we've got, I've got the A squad right now, which is awesome. So we're both in Hemet. Our RCOE moderator is Gracia Alanis. If you want to say a couple words, Gracia. And you're muted right now if you're talking. I can't.
Hi everyone, my name is Grecia and I'm the moderator for this session. So if you guys have any questions, please let us know. I'm here to help you, and then Ashley as well, the Dynamite team. You guys are amazing. And then just want to welcome you guys to join us for this session.
So let me click through. So if you want to tweet us at our session. We're using the hashtag, obviously, for the rest of Google Camp, which is hashtag IE Google Camp. We also had our Twitter handles on that contact page. Mine is just at Rouch, and Ashley's is at Ashley Yazarlou if you want to get in contact with us directly. And I apologize if it looks like I don't have good eye contact. I've got the Zoom meeting on one monitor, and I'm fortunate enough to have another monitor. So a lot of what I do will be on the second monitor, so I apologize in advance if it looks like I'm looking off screen. I just want to give a plug for the equity series this event, or this lunchtime. So at 12:20, we'll kick over to the Equity in Action California team. They'll be talking about making learning spaces more welcoming and inclusive. And that's, if you don't know, Sue Thoughts and Leticia, Jennifer, and Tori, they're a Dynamite team themselves. So it'll be an event you definitely want to go to. Our agenda for today, I'll just give a couple minutes of just like what and why of Google Sites, what it is. We get a lot of questions when we train on this within our own district, and then most of it will be just the how. So I'll actually open up a brand new Google site. We'll try to build a site from scratch. I'll do my best to go through that slowly. Again, I know we got with hundreds of people attending these trainings, a lot of times it's hard to be at the perfect pace for everyone. But we'll do our best. Ashley, will do her best, and Gracia to answer any questions that you have in the chat. You can either post them for everybody, or there's a little drop down to message them directly if you have any questions. And then again, the session's going to be recorded, so we'll do our best to go at a pace that works for everybody. But we also want to be comprehensive, and if we go too fast for anything, feel free to watch a recording as well. So let's start with the why of Google Sites and really sort of the what of sites. So the first thing, the reason that you might want to build a site is sites are like a typical website. A Google site is a great central hub. So it facilitates really an ease of access to anything you want to do for blended learning, or obviously the need right now is our distance instruction across the state. So it can be just a single portal for everything. I know as educators, a lot of times we have a Google Classroom, we have Class Dojo, we have Padlets and Flipgrids and all sorts of different apps that we use. And it's a lot for us to take in, first of all, but especially, if you've got younger learners or parents who might not be as digitally savvy as yourself, it's a lot for parents to take in too. So having a single hub for all of that is really valuable to your learning community. The second reason is just for Google Sites specifically, is that Google Sites are what is called responsive. So a responsive website means that it scales with the size of the device. So if anyone remembers like older websites, or even unfortunately a lot of websites these days still aren't very responsive. So if you try to access them on a mobile device, it'll just look terrible. But Google Sites, they have built in a builder that looks amazing on a full desktop. It looks great on tablets, and it looks great on mobile devices without you having to know any code. If you do any sort of web design, it's pretty complicated stuff to manage yourself, and Google takes care of all of that, which is a huge plus. And then the last one, kind of to dovetail into that, is just its ease of use. It's really easy as a builder to create a site. It's really user-friendly as a student or a family member to access it. And again, my goal is to build an entire site, like an entire class site in our time today, so in 30 minutes or so. We get a lot of questions in Hemet when we've done this training about, okay, I kind of get Google Sites then, but how does that differ from Google Classroom? So I put together this graphic. It's not at all comprehensive. There's a lot that I'm leaving out, but I just kind of put a little bit of a measurement between the two, because there's a significant overlap between them. For both of them, like Google Classroom, you can assign work with a breeze, and that work can take a number of forms. Google Sites, you can still kind of assign work. You can have, you can embed a lot of your forms or Google Documents on it, and then you could, reference students to go there, or you could use your Google Site as a reference point in a Zoom call or a Google Meet meeting or something live with students. So I gave that like a half star. You can still assign it, but it's not nearly as easy as Google Classroom. You cannot grade student work at all, however, though. Google Classroom, you can, give points to quizzes and things like that. And a lot of them, a lot of information systems will actually link with it. So if you use like Infinite Campus or Aries, you can kind of incorporate those gradebooks. You can't really do that in Google Sites, but what it does give you is more of a customized look and feel. I gave a half star to Google Classroom for that because, yeah, you can like change the banner and you can add like emojis for your topics and things. So you can customize a little bit, but not really. Like just about every teacher's Google Classroom looks the same apart from that banner image. Whereas a Google Site, you can really customize it a lot more. They can both link online resources. However, Google Sites can embed online resources. So if you don't know the difference between linking something online and embedding something online, I'll show you that a little bit later, but you cannot embed things. You could link to like a Flipgrid, for example, or a Padlet from Google Classroom, but in Google Sites, you can actually embed those right in. And again, that sort of gets to the idea of it being a central hub. And then lastly, they both support learning virtually. So, they're both great tools. I'll show you how to use them both together. So it's not really an either or exchange, but I wanted to just kind of cover that because they aren't exactly the same, even though there's a lot of overlap. And there are some trade-offs. If you want more customization of how it looks, then a Google Site is probably your option. If you want ease of just being able to assign work and grade work and things like that, then Google Classroom may be what you want. So now let's get into the how. So to do that, we have to start with just planning. So I know this is the teacher in me, and if anyone has taught English and really just about anything, if you tell students to use a pencil, they're going to use a pen. If you tell them to write a rough draft, they're going to create their final draft on the first go. But really planning helps a ton. So the reason that I will be able to build a Google site, hopefully in 30 minutes, is because, I've done not a significant amount of planning, but, a few minutes of just laying out what I want my site to look for. So just to give you an idea of what I did for this presentation, oops, went backwards there, is these are called wireframes in technical jargon. So all that is, and you can see it's not even a good sketch, it's just a rough sketch of what I want my pages to look like. So I'm gonna have a home page that I'll build, that's gonna have a big image behind it, and then a couple buttons to go to my classes. Then I'm gonna have an about page, that's gonna have like a little picture of me, and then some blurb on my about, and then a couple of pictures of the colleges I've gone to, just to give students an idea of my educational background. I'm gonna build a contact page, again, a little image here, a map of, I work out of the district office, so it'll be our district. And then I also want to embed a Google form. So again, not linked to a Google form, but put a contact form within there where students and families could just message me directly without having to remember my email address. And then lastly, just the content sites themselves. So I was a secondary math teacher, so I'm gonna be kind of approaching it through that lens, but this is just like my 7th grade classes, and I'll have a spreadsheet for my assignments, and then I'll have a Padlet that I'll embed as well. I will use not all of these resources, but a lot of them. So again, if you want to use the bit.ly to access this presentation, you'll have full access to all of these links here in. This first one is, I just called it a site planning document. So I'll open that up and show you. It'll prompt you to make a copy. I set the permissions to everybody, so that should work. But if you're having trouble accessing it, again, message Ashley or Gracie, and they can help you out. This planning document has just a short table of contents that covers, again, just the pages. So I kind of told you the pages that I want to build here. So that didn't take, that took 15 seconds to write out the pages. I included the wireframes just so I could have a reference of just the layout of the site. And again, it might feel like a totally redundant step, but it really helps a lot just to sketch it out on paper first. Because you can, even though Google's made it really easy, there's a lot of ugly Google sites out there too, if I can, speak frankly. So you do want to have an idea of what your layout looks like before you jump right in. And then the last is just the content. So my home page, I kind of did a little bit. I'll show you where I found the background images. My about page, I chose a photo already and stuff. And I have my text here. So it's like, hi, I'm Mr. Rao, and then a little bit of my background. So part of that, with full transparency is just so you don't see me typing out a paragraph worth of text. I want to be able to just copy that over. But it really just helps if you have your pages kind of laid out, even with just like your, my district's address and stuff, it just helps me have it all in one place and I can copy it over. So that's the planning document. Flat icon, I'm going to open that up and leave this tab open. If you haven't heard of Flat Icon, it's a really awesome free site for great graphics for icons themselves, as the name suggests. So I've actually purchased, I use these so often, I purchased the premium account. So the little ones with crowns are premium, but it has a huge library of free icons as well. Pexels and Unsplash, they're both really similar. You'll have the link to both if you use the slides, but this is professional photography where the photographers have released the rights to them. So you can use these, you can even use them for like commercial purposes a lot of the times. So these are free to use professional photography. So this is just maybe getting ahead of myself, but like this is the one area I think people go wrong is they don't use a high enough resolution image. They'll kind of like take something from their cell phone or they'll take a school logo, which a lot of times is this big, and they'll try to make that their banner image and then it just gets really blurry. So using professional photography will help a lot, and I'll show you how to do that. The others, I'm not going to go through all these. Coolers I won't use today, but it's a really cool palette generator. So this would work for, dressing up Google Documents or slides. These are the hex codes where you can actually change the code. And if I just press the space bar, I can generate tons of palettes. And if I really like, maybe I really like this shade of purple, I can push this little lock and maybe lock a couple of these colors and then keep pushing the space bar. Now it'll build out an entire palette for me. So a really cool tool, but I won't really be using that today. I did pull a lot of resources here. I won't use Wide Open School, but in my planning document, I used it a lot. So if you don't know Wide Open School, it's a project of common sense where you can say, I'm an educator and I did secondary and I'm looking for social emotional learning or digital citizenship. It is the curated place for like top-notch resources. So I'll use resources in my own site that I just pulled from Wide Open School. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that if you've never heard it. And then if you just want, if you don't really know your text yet, I kind of wrote out my educational background. If you want to build without knowing that, there's a couple, this is called Lorem Ipsum. If you've ever seen that, it's just placeholder text, it's gibberish. My favorite is Bob Ross Lipsum though. So it's placeholder text that uses phrases from The Joy of Painting. So it makes your site, like even before it's built, sound like really poetic and just wonderful. So those are just some resources that you have. But I am going to dive in right now. So there are a number of ways to build sites and access them, just like just about everything in the Google system. The first is through your tile menu or your waffle menu. So up by my name here, I've got this waffle menu. If you don't see sites, it looks like this. I can rearrange these however I want. So if you want to use sites, you can go there and I can just click on that and it'll pull up Google Sites for me. When I say create though, it gives me two options. It says, do you want to create in the new sites or in classic sites? Definitely do the new sites. That's the one that builds in all of like your responsiveness and it'll look beautiful on mobile. It's just much easier to use. So I recommend, and Google recommends, building it in new sites. So the first option is just going through that waffle. The second is just going directly to sites.google.com. And you can come here and that'll take you to that exact same place where you can create with that button. And then the third, a lot of people don't know that you can just create it straight from your drive. So right now I'm in my Google Drive. I can just say new. I have my regular options of a Google Doc, a Google Slide, a Google Sheet, but I can also come to more and then come down here to Google Sites. So really, whatever's easiest for you to remember, you can get there a lot of different ways. So I'm going to go to Google Sites, give that just a second to load. And then right away, I'm creating a blank site. So the first thing I'm going to do is just name it. So, you know, for the sake of this, we'll just call this Mr. Rouch's site. So I put that in just the header there. All I did was double click, super easy. If I click up in this untitled site, I can actually name the document itself. So now, you know, I'm going to give that the same name up there, so I'll be able to find it easily in my drive. Again, these are saved in your drive the same way a spreadsheet or a Google slide or anything is as well. Then I just want to walk through, some of your options here. So if you look at this right-hand panel, you've got a couple options: insert, pages, or themes. We're just going to stick to the insert one for now. The first, these are, I just call these modules. They don't really have a name, but I can drop a text box here. So if I click that, it's going to add a place to add text. So this is a text box. You can customize this a lot more than you can in Google Classroom, like I mentioned, but you still can't customize it to your heart's content. You know, this isn't like a Weebly or something like that where you can choose your font actually. What you can do though, you see where it says normal text here. I can just click that drop down and I've got a few options. So I could make that a title and it kind of dresses that up for me. I can make that a heading, which again is a little thicker and larger, a subheading. If you're like trying to caption an image or something, there's a small option. I don't use that really, to be honest, just because you're going to get a lot of complaints about people being able to read it. So for now, I'll just leave that as normal text, but that's your text box option. Your other options are images. So you can upload an image directly from your computer, or you can select an image. So this will give you a few options. It'll connect to your Google Drive, and it'll look for images that you have on your drive already. You can upload, these are pictures I was taking with my boys this morning, so I apologize for the silly faces. But you can just do a Google search too. So, you know, I could say trains or something, and it'll pull up, you know, images of trains that I could just drop in, you know, maybe like this orange one, and I'll just say insert down here, and I can drop that in. Once it's in, I can resize it, and you can see really easy to use to like center something perfectly. You know, if I wanted that train right in the middle there, I'm just clicking and dragging and able to put it wherever I want. The embed code is what I was talking about, where if you have a URL, or some sites will actually give you something called an embed code, like a YouTube video or a Padlet or a Flipgrid, you can drop that in here and it'll bring that in. So I'll show you that a little bit later because we're going to use that one. And then Drive is just anything from your Google Drive. You know, you could do a form, a spreadsheet, a slide, really anything. So, you know, I'm sure we're pretty comfortable with Google Drive by now. So let me delete these. The other thing is layouts. So right below that, I've got this layouts option, and this gives me sort of pre-formatted layouts for me. So if I click this first one, that's a large thing. So it could be an image. If I click this little plus, I can put an image here. I could put a YouTube video, a calendar, a map, or I could select something from my drive. So it's like something large to the left, and then I've got like a heading, and then some text. Again, you can adjust that just because it formatted it that way for you. I can make them both titles if I wanted, you know, and you can adjust after the fact. But that layout gives you that look. The others just, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory. This 2x2 will just give me sort of a big thing, an image or a video or something on top of a couple headings. And again, you're not married to those at all. You can make both of those the same or whatever you'd like. This layout gives me two things on the side and then one large one. This one will give me 3 columns. So if you want something with 3 columns, you can use that layout. If you want something with 4 columns, you can use the one right below it. And then if you want something that's kind of 2 columns with a little bit of a stack where you've got like an image and then some text to the side, you can choose that layout. Really, within that, let me delete a few of these. Within any of those layouts, you can adjust these sizes as well. So, you know, I can click on that thing and be like, no, I actually want my picture to be this. So once you have a layout, that sort of gives you a first glance of how you can build it, but you can customize where your text goes, where your image goes. If I don't like that heading there, there's a little bit of a, I don't know if you can see those kind of like 10 little gray dots. If I grab those dots, I can drag this around and be like, actually, I want that text right on top of that image. There we go. You know, now I have my text directly on top of the image as opposed to on the side. So again, the layouts are just sort of a really quick layout that looks great right out of the box, but totally customizable. Then you have these options as well. So these modules are just other things that you can insert, and I'll go through some of them just in the interest of time. I won't go through all of them, but you've got collapsible text. If you wanted to add a table of contents or an image carousel. So an image carousel is sort of, you've got that big image and then they can scan to the side for other images. A button if you wanted to link to somewhere else. A divider, which just kind of puts a nice break, like a little bit of a line between your content. Placeholder, if you're building this and you want to just give a general outline, then you could just add placeholder, which isn't really anything. It's just, you know, I'll click that in there. It's just that blank box for you, so other people can build it. And I'll show how to share with others, you know, later as well. A YouTube video, your Google Calendar, a Google Map, and then obviously, again, anything from a Drive, docs, slides, sheets, forms. If you have a chart that's within a spreadsheet, you can even like throw in charts that are inside of spreadsheets, which is pretty cool. So again, all of this stuff, you could link to a YouTube video from a Google Classroom as well, but you can't embed it in there and actually have the kids, you know, play it from within your site. So that's just a quick overview of those buttons. I'm going to give this one, the first thing I'm going to do is just give my header a background image. So I mentioned I like to use Pexels or Unsplash. I'm going to go with like this deserty, you'll see desert theme with like dinosaurs today. So if I just search desert, these are just, you know, top notch, again, really high quality images. And I can find, you know, something that I like. I really, you know, like this Monument Valley one. So I'm just going to download this for free. Save it on my computer. And then I'm just going to, because I'm not going to open up any more images from there. So to change this background image, I just have that button, right? That says change image. So if I come up here, I'll click that drop down. Again, I can select something that's already in my drive if you have images that you like to use already, or you can click that upload button. So I'm just going to click upload, and I'm just going to find that one that I just downloaded. And boom. So this is another part of Google Sites. If you look what it's doing right here in that magic, it said adjusting for readability. And if you noticed, it like made my background a lot more opaque, and it kind of like softened it. And then my text is now darker. So there's a thing with web design for ADA compliance, where in order for our visually impaired students, we want to have a high enough contrast between the text and an image. So if you put like a dark text over a dark image, it's going to be really hard to read. Google Sites just takes care of all of that for you, which is phenomenal. And again, it's for web developers, that's like hours of their day, and Google's just like, nope, I'll adjust that for you, and it works, and it looks great, right? So I'm plenty happy with that. The other thing I can do here is change the header type. So if I want it to be just the title, I can have just the title of my site. If I want it to be a banner is sort of a thin image. A large banner is, you know, just a larger version of that, or a cover would be like the first thing they see. They could still scroll down below it, but that would like take up their whole view. For my homepage, I usually like a large banner. I like a nice clean picture there. So I'm going to select large banner. And that's all I'm going to do for the homepage right now. But I am going to go over to pages. And here's where you would add additional pages. So right now I've got my homepage there. If I click this little plus, well, if I hover over that little plus, I've got two options. I can either link to something, which I'll show you how to do later. So again, this is a way I could link to an existing Google Classroom if I wanted. And now my students can access my Google Classroom from my Google site. Or I can just add a new page. So in this case, I'm going to go to my About page. So I just clicked New Page, and I named it About. And I say Done. And again, another cool thing about it is it's like, oh, it looks like you really like that, you know, that background. And it's like, yeah, for consistency, you know, I just want this Monument Valley image. So I'm going to leave that for my About page. I will change the type though. I want my home page to have a large banner, but I'm going to come down here to header type and make my other pages just be that little thin banner. So my About page is going to have that. And it did that automatically for me. So this is my About page. I'm going to add some content now. So again, from here, I'll be working a little bit on this planning document that Ashley has linked, and it's also linked inside of the presentation. So any image, so this is just in a document, right? I can copy this. So I'm right-clicking to say copy, or you could also do Control-C on a PC or Command-C on a Mac, and I can just paste it in here with Command-V or Control-V, right? So you can even just paste things in there without using those. You know, I could come into Insert, and I could say insert images if I wanted, or it's just as easy as like copying and pasting, which really makes it easy as well. So I actually like that layout though. So I'm gonna click this layout where I've got a big thing and I'm gonna drop my image there. So I want that image to be there. And then this title, I'm just gonna say, let's see what I had in my planning document. I just said, hi, I'm Mr. Rao. So I'm gonna copy that over for my title. And then for my body text, I'm just gonna give students a little bit of information about my interests and how long I've been in education and things like that. So I'm gonna click here for the body text. Maybe I'll, that's kind of a lot for a website, so maybe I'll do a break there with a little enter and give some more space. So that's just, it was, again, I had that content pre-made, but even if I didn't have that paragraph, it would take 2 minutes to write something like that. So I've got a really clean little message about myself. Then I want to do something about my educational history. So the next thing I'm going to do is add a text box. And let's make this a heading. And I'll just call that my educational background. If you come over here, so I'm just hovering over these different like sections of the website. I've got a few options. So this little paint palette, I can change the background of this if I want. Again, I don't have a ton of options. It's not gonna let me change it to like any color I want, but I'm gonna give this background a little more emphasis, and then it just changes like that background there. You could also duplicate. So if you have a section that you wanna like keep adding, I could duplicate this as many times as I want, and then that little trash can obviously just deletes whatever you don't need. So I'm gonna have a little section for my educational background, and then I'm going to, I went to 3 schools, so I'll have that there. So I've got my 3-column layout that I just brought in from the side right there. So let's see my pictures of the schools. I think I brought those in. I did not. So I'm going to use the Google image search feature. So I'm gonna hit plus, and I'll say select image, and I'll say Google image search. So the first school I went to was the Colorado School of Mines. A lot of people think it's mines, like a clown college, but it's for like engineering and stuff. But, that's a really pretty picture of the Guggenheim Bell, so I'll select that one. If I double click on that, I can kind of, I don't know if you saw that, it was kind of off-centered. If you double click on an image, you can kind of change where it is. So I'm just gonna center that a little bit better. Then I'm gonna select the image for Azusa Pacific. Because I think like half of the teachers in the Valley, I attended APU. And let's do that image there. Oh, I like this one actually. It's kind of modern looking. And then I'm currently attending Vanderbilt, so I'll just upload an image of Vanderbilt University. And that's a really pretty one. So again, even if you don't have the images yourself, it was, that just took a couple seconds. I'm gonna come back to my document and paste in the copy for those. So my first school was the Colorado School of Mines. Then I went to Azusa Pacific. And then I went to Vanderbilt. I'm currently in Vanderbilt. And then I also have just a little bit of text around what I studied there. So I'm going to copy that from my planning document and paste that in. So at APU, I studied human development and digital teaching, and then I'm working on my EDD at Vanderbilt. So there we go. So now I've got an about page with a little bit of information about myself, an image. Again, if I want that image to be bigger, I can click on that. I can drag those, that little handle out, and it'll resize. So let's drag it about there, and it'll resize the text around it, which is a really cool feature. I didn't have to do any code or anything. And then I've got my little blurb and my educational background. So already I've got a really good looking, that took 5 minutes or so, but I've got a really good looking about page. I'm gonna come over to the pages again, and I'll click the plus for a new page, and this will be a contact me page. So I'll just call that contact. Again, it brings in the banner for me. I don't wanna change that. I really like that. And let's have some contact information. So again, I'm gonna go to insert, and I like that layout of that sort of 2x2. So I'm going to insert a Google map of where they can find me. And I can say Hemet Unified, just searching in the map right here, and it pulls up. And I'll say select. So you could put, you know, I wouldn't recommend your home address, even though we're distance learning right now, but you could put really anything there and it'll pull up. And then, you know, this heading, I'll say my district. And then in the planning document, I also had where they can email me and my extension and the actual physical address of that. So I'm going to copy, whoops, let me do that one. I'll copy that and then paste that under here as well. I don't really like that it brought in those bullets, so I can just come over here and delete those and put that there. I do recommend, so on my email address, if you see, I didn't use the @ symbol and I didn't use the actual dot. I didn't write my email address, you know, with regular conventions. There are bots, and this isn't true of, you know, just Google site, but basically if you put your email address in a website, there are bots that look for that convention, and you can start to get spammed that way. So anytime I have my email address on a site that I make, I like to just, you know, put it in that format, and everybody knows what to do from there. That's not necessarily anything confusing. So I've got that section. I'm plenty fine with that. And then the last thing I wanted on my contact page was to bring in a Google form where they could actually contact me directly. So I'm still on my insert pane here. I'm going to scroll down to Google Forms. Choose that one. I've pre-built this form. Let's see. Oh, I'm on my other account. So I'll just drop in this. I'm building this on my personal account, so I apologize. I pre-built it in my other one. So actually, let me come over and share that real fast. So I've got my contact form here as well. I can share this with myself by just adding collaborators. It's going to warn me that I'm not within my work community, but just, you know, for the sake of a demonstration, I'll share that anyway. And now let's see when I come here if it'll find it. There we go. So now I can bring in this Google form. And all I did here was I just had a name. So this could be the name of a student or a parent and a message. So these in my Google form, I'm going to center this form a little bit, and I can even, you know, make it kind of take up that whole width by dragging those out. But again, this wasn't the world's most complicated form by any stretch. It's just my name and it's a message. And then the one thing to be aware of, though, is in your form, if you want to be notified, it's actually under your responses tab. There's those 3 dots, and I can say get email notifications for new responses. So that it checked it and then closed it real fast. But now that I've got a little check mark there, this will notify me anytime somebody responds to my form, which is a huge plus. So this will be a really important tool for probably all the forms that you use if you want to be notified, you know, throughout our distance learning. So there's my, you know, I've inserted that, and that's my contact page, which I'm, again, plenty happy with. The last thing I really want to build is my content pages. So I'm going to come back over to the Pages tab, click that plus, and again, I taught middle school math, so I'll name that Math 6. And when I say done, it brings in that header. And let's say I want to pull in 2 things. So I'm going to go to Insert here, and I'm going to say, let's do just a regular text box, and I'll call this Assignments. I'm going to make this large, so I'm going to come over here to the title. I'm going to make it bold. And then I also have that little option to where I can center it as well. So I'm going to put that in the center. So here's my assignments. This is something important. So I'm going to come over to that, you know, I'm hovering over that. I've got that paint palette option. I'm going to give that a little bit of emphasis. And notice it changed the color of the text to add the contrast for me. And I've got my assignments there. And these assignments are going to be actually a Google spreadsheet that I have. So because I'm creating this under my personal account, let me just share that spreadsheet again. With myself, just so I'll have access to it. And I apologize for that. That's one of the dangers of using, as I'm sure many of you have seen, using if you log in with your personal Google account and your school one, a lot of times it tries to jump between the two. So I'll share this with myself. I'll give myself editing rights. Once again, it'll say, hey, you're outside of your domain. I'll share it anyway for now. So under this assignment, I want to link a Google spreadsheet where, and I used to do this all the time when I was in the classroom. It was a place where I would have like a classwork column and then a homework column, and it was a running log for the entire year. So any parent, any student who was absent, even if they were absent, they're like, hey, 3 weeks ago, what did we do? They had a running log of the entire year. So on the insert pane, I can add anything from my Google Drive, including Sheets. So I'll come down here to Sheets. We'll see if it pops up in my recents. It did not, so I will search for assignments. And then Google Sites demo assignments, so right there. And I'll insert that. So this is an example of what I mean by embedding. So I'm gonna center, let me kind of trim this a little bit because I don't need all that like white space, so I can bring that handle in. And then I can just center that there. So you can see this site or this spreadsheet had 3 tabs, one for my 6th grade students, one for my 7th grade students, and one for my 8th grade students. So this was my Math 6 class. So it's just got my Math 6 assignments there. Again, it's all kind of a dummy one right now, but you could really have a running log for your entire year. So I'm gonna have my assignments here. I'm also gonna post like a class discussion area. So I would use Padlet for that. That's a great use for Padlet. So I'm gonna come over here to my text box, add a new text box and put it above my assignments because that's what I had selected. So I'm going to grab that little handle and drag this down, and we are going to call this class discussion. Again, I want that to be a heading. I want that to be a little bit bigger. I'll make that bold. I'll center that just like we did with assignments. What's my title? And then I will give it the same emphasis that I gave assignments. So I've got kind of two clean sections, one for assignments, one for class discussion. So here is where embedding comes in. So I told you I was going to come back to this embed tool. If I bring that down, if I click on embed, it's going to give me 2 options. It'll embed by a URL or by a code. So let me I have Padlet open, and you can see I have 3 Padlets for the different classes. I'm going to click into Math 6. Every platform that you use, so Flipgrid, Padlet, they have their embed code a little bit different, but it's usually under wherever the share is. You could just grab this URL and copy that, and Google Sites will probably allow that as well. But if you want the actual embed code, it's under share. And then for Padlet, there's embed in your blog or website. So I can copy this code with just that little button. It'll copy all of that. And then I could paste that into my Google Sites. Or to show you again, I can just say share and copy the link, which is just grabbing this link. And Google Sites is pretty good that it'll embed most just plain URLs too. So I wanted to kind of show you both. It's recognizing like, okay, I've got a Padlet. Do you just want like the preview to the Padlet, like a little cover page for it? Or do you want the whole page? I'm going to say bring in the whole page. And here is our Math 6 discussion. So I'm going to show you a few different styles in Padlet. So this is called a back channel where you can format in Padlet things like a discussion. So this could just be a live discussion now where students could ask homework problems. They could leave comments. You can choose like, hey, make sure that I moderate these if you want. So it's not just like showing up on your website, but that's the discussion there. The beauty of sites. So I just built out my content, right? That took a few minutes. I just built out my Math 6 page though. The beauty of this is if I go to pages, I can click on these little dots, those 3 vertical dots, and say duplicate page. And I'm going to call this page Math 7. And it'll do everything that I just did, without having to rebuild that page, it's now duplicated for my Math 7. The problem is, right, is now I have my Math 6 discussion and I have my Math 7 assignments and stuff. So I'm just gonna rename, I don't want that image to say Math 6. I'm gonna rename that. I'm gonna click on that spreadsheet that I brought in. And if I give that a double tap or click those settings, you can see it's like, oh, what sheet do you want? And right now it's pulling Math 6. I had a Math 7 tab on there. So I'm just gonna choose that. And then for this embed, I'm just gonna get rid of that Padlet. So I'm gonna give that trash can. I'm gonna come up here, grab my Math 7 one, take that URL, go back to my site, use that embed feature and just paste that URL, use that whole page again, and now we have Math 7. For this one, I did it as just a wall. So I wanted to show like the Padlet wall view. So you could allow comments and stuff where students could say, hey, what's our Google Meet link, right? And you could post that here if you wanted. And then I'm gonna come over to my pages and do the exact same thing for my 8th grade students. So I'm gonna say duplicate page, call that Math 8, change that 7 to an 8. Oops. Double click on that to change that spreadsheet to my Math 8 tab, and then come back to Padlet and grab my Math 8 link. So again, I know I went a little fast there, but I kind of did that intentionally, if I'm being honest, just to show you just how easy it is. You know, you take the time to build out one page, and you know, within 15 seconds, you can build out your other classes if they, you know, if you want the same format for those. So I did, and this is, this format in Padlet is called the shelf, or the bookshelf, I think. So I've kind of got different columns for comments that they could leave, for maybe Google Classroom questions or homework questions.
Hey, Derek,
So,
there's a
yeah.
question in the chat about when would you use an embed code?
So the embed code, sometimes they don't, it might not capture it. So like Flipgrid, I think if you take the link, it'll kind of give like a button to go to the Flipgrid. And if you take the embed code, it'll actually show you that, I think they call them the topics there. So different, it'll be a little bit of experimentation, but different platforms handle that a little bit differently. So notice that on my pages now, every time I built a page, it added it as a menu option up top without me having to do anything there. I like my about and contact usually to come last. So all you have to do is just click and drag on those, and it's going to adjust that menu, you know, in real time as well. So now my about and my contact is last over there. So that's pages. Like I said, you could also link pages from, it doesn't have to be a page itself. Your menu could include links, right? So I'm going to come to my Google Classroom. Let me go to my actual school district one this time. And again, I made just a dummy one for this purpose, but all your classrooms have that gibberish, you know, after your URL is unique to it. So if I just copy all of that, I'm going to come back over to my sites. I'm going to hover, I'm not clicking, I'm hovering over that little plus, and I'm going to say new link, and I'm going to paste that link there, but then under the name, I'm going to say Google Classroom. And that's the name is what shows up on the menu. So you can see it shows me it's a little bit different of a thing, but the name is what shows up, and then the link is where that will actually go. So you can do that for your Google Classroom. Each classroom has a Google Meet associated with it, or it can. You can do that if you use Google Meet as your kind of synchronous learning platform. So I'm going to right click and copy that link. And I'm just going to do the same thing in my Google site. I'm going to add a new link down here, paste in that, and say Google Meet. Again, in Google Classroom, you can do that because that Meet link stays the same. So now, you know, I've got this whole thing where my classroom is now built with a Meet link and a Classroom link, right? So it's again the portal to everything. If you have Class Dojo, you could put your Dojo link. If you have, you know, anything else that you use regularly, it can be on your Google site, and now it's all a single portal for all of that. I'm going to add these links though. I'm going to actually make one more page. So I'm going to click new page, and I'm going to call this resources. And then I'm going to drag, I want to show you, if I put my Google Classroom, I'm on the pages tab, if I drag that underneath resources, it gives me like a drop-down list. So now those things appear in a drop-down, and you can do that with any pages. You could have like pages underneath other pages. So under pages, all I did was I can drag that under about, and now I've got a little drop down for about if I want, but Google Meet, we'll call that a resource. So I'll put that there. But maybe I want other content on this resources itself. So I'm going to insert, I didn't show you the collapsible text one, but that's pretty cool if you've got a lot of stuff to share with students, but you don't necessarily want it to just appear all at once. In my planning document, I have, my resources down here. I've got math resources. So this collapsible one, I'm going to call math resources. And then inside of it, I have all of the things we would use for math. So I've got Desmos and Khan Academy and all of those. I'm just copying those links and dropping them right under here. So now it doesn't show all those. It says math, but I've got that little arrow where if I click that arrow, I've got all of my math stuff. And again, because the math is the subject, I'm going to give that a little bit of emphasis with my schedule, like my little section background there. Let's add another collapsible text, and maybe I want some emotional well-being ones. All of these links, like I mentioned at the very beginning that I'm bringing in, all of these links come directly from that Wide Open School resource, which is in the slides. So these are all like common sense vetted resources. Feel free to pull your own. I'm sure you'll be able to find more that you want. And let me just delete those. I don't necessarily want those to be bullets. Or actually, I think I had bullets on the last one. So make them bullets again here. So now I've got a little tab for emotional well-being one with like the crisis text line, some meditations that I could have students do. And then I'm just going to add, I won't do all of these in the sake of time. I'll say like a digital citizenship one. So let's create a collapsible text that we call digital citizenship. And let me just drop in some links that I found from Common Sense Media for digital citizenship. I'll keep that bulleted as well. So again, by planning this out and having my documents created beforehand, it saved a lot of time. Now I've got a resources page. Maybe I want that resources page actually at like the very end that they could click on themselves and get these different categories of resources, or they could go to those drop downs and actually get links to my Class Dojo or my Google Classroom or my Google Meet or whatever. And then the last thing in the last couple minutes, I just want to show you themes. So you do have even more styling options under this theme. So I'm going to go to my home page. And I'm going to choose, they all have their pros and cons. I like this diplomat theme. And then if you choose, let me go to one of these grades. You can even choose like that secondary color that it shows. So maybe I like that one. That one's pretty clean. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm also going to insert some images that the students could use as buttons to go to those pages. So I told you about flat icon. Let me just search up a dinosaur, Triceratops. So again, the library is huge. It's got lots of different Triceratops options here. I really like that one. I'm just right-clicking on it, pasting it, and I can come over here and paste it in. And maybe I want to resize that a little bit. And actually, I'll just create this myself. So I'll resize that to the size I want. I'll add a little text box underneath it that I call Math 6. And then both of these, if I click on those, I've got this link option. When you click the link, you could say like, what page do you want to go to? Do you want to go to your contact page, your about page? Obviously for this one, I would want my Math 6 page. So I can do that for that image. I can also come in here and do that link for the text as well. So I'll just show you one of those. You could, obviously build out your, maybe I'll have that a little more centered there. You could build out those for whatever you'd like. The last thing that I wanted to show before our time is up is just the settings. So to publish your site, it's pretty straightforward. You click that big publish button to make it live. Under the settings, you've got lots of different options here where you can say like, how do you want your navigation? Do you want your navigation on the side here? Or do you like it on the top like I have? What color do you want your navigation? Do you want your navigation to be like a black bar? Do you want it to be white? Do you want it to be transparent? There's some, they have like brand images. The new thing they added was an announcement banner. So you can say like, a lot of websites I'm sure you've seen have had like a COVID one. So let's say I do want a banner and I'll make it red and I'll say due to the COVID virus, or COVID-19 pandemic, we will be instructing virtually or something. And then now that is on, you know, my site as a banner, like a lot, or you can make that on the top of all of your pages if you want, like I have here, or you could change that setting to just display on one. So, you know, I could just say, oh, just show that on the home page only. And then that will be visible on the home page, but my banner will go away on the others.
Hey, Derek, before we leave, can you show how to publish the site to either everyone or just the district or small, like the publish settings?
Yeah, so yeah, when you click publish, this is, if you're familiar with the Google ecosystem in general, you can customize the web address a little bit here. So you could say, you know, Hemet USD or whatever you want. And then you can say, who can view my site? So in this anyone right now, I just said manage. And again, just like a Google Doc or Google Slides or anything, you could add people directly. So I could say, you know, just Ashley Yazarlou. Or you could, you know, give the link to and say, oh, you know, the entire public can view this site, or, you know, I want to restrict it to certain people. So again, you could, if you really wanted to lock it down, you could put just your students' emails in there and only the students can do that. The problem with that is that, you know, maybe the parent wants to access it as well and they don't have school emails. So it is sort of a dance. Which, you know, obviously is your professional discretion, but I'm over time already. I know we've got that really awesome equity presentation to head to. I really appreciate your guys' patience. I can hang back afterwards if anyone has any questions. I know Ashley was killing it in the chat like she has all week, but really thank you for coming to this. I hope this has been a valuable presentation and a valuable, you know, just a couple days itself. And yeah, I'll hang back if there's any other questions, and you can unmute yourself if you want to just, you know, say it so we can kind of give Ashley's fingers a break.
Don't forget to hop into the Sched and give Derek some feedback today.
Oh yeah,
on the session.
And there's our emails as well. So I'll leave that page up if you'd like to contact us. You know, even if you're not Hemet, feel free to email us. We'd be happy to help you out, or find us on Twitter. We're happy to respond. Thanks, Jenna. We do have Twitter. I should have, the genius of me did not put those on the same slide. So our Twitter handles were on the first. Okay, thanks. Actually, our Twitter handles were on the first slide and our emails are on the second one. A smarter Derek would have put them the same on both. But there's our handles if you're interested. Thanks, Ashley. So she's put those in the chat. So I'll go back down to our emails. And yeah, if you could drop in, I don't have a feedback form per se, but if you could drop in just feedback on the session through the little Sched platform, that would be really appreciated. And I'm going to stop recording now. I'll stay in the meeting again. If anyone has any questions, feel free to